Studnik Aquatics here. Everything's going really well. I am going through a Diatom Bloom, and that's what this is, that brown algae. I've been kind of stirring the substrate to keep it from getting too brown. I keep the glass as clean as I can. It's always frustrating when this happens, but it's part of it. When you set up a new saltwater aquarium, coral reef, fish only, whatever, you're going to have a Diatom Bloom. That's just part of it. It will cycle. And right now my protein skimmer is definitely working overtime. It's pulling out a lot of really gunky stuff there, a lot of brown. I'm also keeping my mechanical filtration, which is just in this little thing for now. I'm keeping it replaced regularly. About every 2 to 3 days I replace that. My fish are doing really good. Here's my clowns and my little wrasse. They're out front now because they're hungry. So, and what this is about testing the water. What I bought is it would be really nice to be able to have some of the, like the HANA checkers for all of this stuff, and eventually I will. But they're expensive, and you start looking at making sure that you have some kind of a digital, high-grade water test for each thing. You need to test pH, ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, calcium, carbonate hardness, phosphate, and magnesium. So that adds up to a lot of money, and I can't do that overnight. So I just got the API. You can get the master one or the Reef one. So that's what I'm using. It's working very, very well. Be sure and let them sit after you put your drops in there. Don't put your finger on it. Make sure that you follow the directions, and then wait 5 minutes before you read your test. And my pH here is right where it needs to be. It is at 8.2. I did pick up some Kent Marine carbonate hardness, and you can actually add that to bring your pH up if it starts to drop. And this here is the ammonia. The ammonia is sitting at pretty darn close to 0, and my nitrites are at 0, and my nitrates are also at 0. So everything is cycled really, really well. And my phosphates, I like to also test my phosphates just to see where I'm at with that diatom algae. And as you can see, we're really, really pale on the scale. We're not anywhere near, the real high amount. And I do have a phosphate reactor on that running PhosGuard in it. I've had the best luck with PhosGuard. I tried a lot of different stuff over the years, and I like it best. So I'm sitting at less than 0.25 parts per million of phosphate. So I'm doing really well. When you have a diatom algae bloom and your phosphates are high, it can really become a problem. So you want to be sure and check your phosphates. One thing that can happen is if you're not using reverse osmosis deionized water and you're using tap water, sometimes there's a lot of silicates in that water, and those silicates will feed that algae, and your phosphates and silicates will rise. And when I set up the 240-gallon saltwater aquarium downstairs, I had a really bad phosphate problem for a while. It just skyrocketed. It took a long time, but I eventually did get it down. I ended up putting a UV sterilizer in the thing. I also picked up a Phosban 550, and I put PhosGuard in it, and I did actually bring it down to less than 0.25 parts per million, and even less than that. So it's working really, really well. It is a little frustrating with the algae bloom right now. The other two things that I have tested is, let me zoom this back out, is obviously I always test my specific gravity. My specific gravity is sitting at 1.0245, which is where I want it. And my temperature is 77.5, which is perfect. And I know there's a lot of apps you can get, and you can do this all electronically, but I guess I'm old school, I don't know. This is my bar graph I made for this tank, and this here I'm taking a test every week. There is my pH. You can see the drop, and where I added that, then it went back up. My ammonia, you can see how it cycled. The process started on December 5th, and it completely cycled by 12/28. So it took a while. And had the nitrites, it actually did the same thing. It spiked up there pretty high and then dropped to 0. It's been that way ever since. Nitrates are the same thing. I also have another sheet on here, and I just make copies and just do one of these once a week. And when I was cycling the tank, I tested everything once a day. So my phosphates, as you can see, my phosphates have always been really low. They never did rise. My calcium is sitting really good. It's sitting at about 420 parts per million. and my carbonate hardness is sitting at 9 DKH, and my magnesium, if I can find it on my chart here, get it to focus in. There it goes. And my magnesium is sitting at 1280 parts per million. So everything is looking really, really good. And when I do get corals in there, when my calcium and my magnesium start to drop, then I will do a water change to bring that up. Eventually, as the corals grow enough to where, especially if you start getting LPS or SPS corals, they require so much more calcium and magnesium. So if you start dropping, and when a water change isn't enough to do it, then you have to figure out a way to start dosing calcium and magnesium. So, I like my little bar graphs, and I have a little thing up here that tells me which week that's for. There's basically 16 weeks on one of these, so it's not like I'm going to have a whole bunch of these papers around. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm doing my water test. I do it every week. Everything is testing out perfect. I have ordered a cleanup crew, a number of various number of things: snails, crabs, a sea urchin, starfish, and some of these kind of things to kind of get ahead of this algae. And then I have, I'm going to be ordering sometime within the next week probably some more fish, and I'll throw them in quarantine downstairs. They'll be in there for about a month, and then once that month is up, I will start moving them into this tank. I'll put a fish in, I'll watch my cycle. It'll probably take about 2 weeks. Once everything's zero, I'll go again. So anyway, it's moving forward, and this is Studnick Aquatics, and thanks for watching.